The topic that has been chosen for the delineation for all these days is Yaadavaabhyudayam. Yaadavaabhyudayam is a beautiful poem with over 2,500 verses written by a great polymath, a preceptor par excellence, a peerless poet preceptor called Vedanta Desika in the 13th century that talks about the life, the journey and the teachings of Krishna. First I have to tell you the Grantha Karanam. Any work is born for a purpose. Vedanta Desika will spell out the purpose in a few shlokas from now. But how is this Kavyam born? Prior to this, there was a beautiful poem written by Kalidasa called Raghuvamsham, roughly about 1800 years back. I'm just telling you a rough date. 2nd century AD or CE, Common Era, which is roughly about 1800 years back. A great poet of the Samskrita Bhasha called Mahakavi Kalidasa. He gave very many works. 3 of them were poems, 3 were dramas. Vikramurvashiyam, Malavikagnimitram and Abhignana Shakuntalam were dramas. Raghuvamsham, Kumarasambhavam and Meghadutam were kavyas. Raghuvamsham doesn't restrict itself to Rama. It talks about pre and post Rama. So pre-Rama it talks about Ikshvaku, Mandhata, Asamanjas, Samshuman, Sagara, Ajja, Dasharatha. And after Rama it talks about briefly about Lava and Kusha and then Kusha's lineage even till Brihadbala. So this is Raghuvamsham. So Raghuvamsham was a talking point in those days after Kalidasa had written, because the kind of similes and metaphors he has used will make any person who reads and relishes the language and its poetry and its literature go gaga over that. Well, after Kalidasa's time, in the 13th century, after Kalidasa, roughly about 1100 years later, for us 700 years before, 700 to 800 years before, there was a great poet born in the south of India, because you always you always need to balance, right? If you have a chapati and a dal, you need to have a curd rice along with it. So there has to be a balance. So if the central and the north India produced Kalidasa, the south had to give its reply. It called Vedanta Desika and said, you are our reply. So if Kalidasa composed a beautiful Sanskrit poem called Raghuvamsham, Vedanta Desika took Krishna as a subject and composed the work called Yaadavaabhyudayam. So this is a work like Raghuvamsham, because that is by a poet of the central and the north India, this is by a poet of the south India. There's been a time gap between the two. But what makes a great work even greater is when people of great achievements, scholastic achievements, comment on it. Because if I have to choose a work and comment on it, I should have the necessary achievements. If Tirukkural is famous, it is just not because of Thiruvalluvar. It is because of a great commentator called Parimel Alagar. If Nalayira Divya Prabandham is famous, it owes its greatness to a plethora of commentators, one of whom is Swami Periyavachan Pillai. So we have so many commentators who embellish the original work. They add greatness to the work. For example, can you tell me the famed commentator's name to Kalidasa's works? I know you're tired, but the answer is just one word. Very good. Mallinatha. Mallinatha is the greatest commentator to Kalidasa's works. He was such a great critique, because often there is a difference that we need to cite between critiquing and criticizing. Critiquing is where you are an expert at it, and then you say what are the pluses and the areas of improvement. There's nothing called a minus. Areas of improvement. So that becomes critiquing. Criticizing is where you don't like the person. You have to say something and you know you are not an expert at it or anything at all. But you keep saying and harping about things which don't bother you, but the person bothers you. That is called criticizing. Critiquing is an art. You should know what to critique because you should be an expert. I haven't learned music. I do not know what is the difference between Kalyani and Kamboji. If I end up writing a review of how a Carnatic concert looks, then I'm not a critique. I've neither been critiquing. I've just been criticizing. So a critique of a work is extremely important, and Mallinatha did it absolutely stupendously. So much so that in the Marathi language, even today, if someone says something which is an area of improvement, even in the colloquial way, they say, Mallinathi Karto. So that name of a person has become the common word. Like how Kalidasa's works, because I'm comparing Kalidasa and Desika of Raghuvamsham and Yaadavaabhyudayam. You remember? Just 3.5 minutes back we were discussing. So, Kalidasa's works were commented by Mallinatha. Vedanta Desika's work, of course Vedanta Desika was a great poet preceptor, he was an acharya, all this is fine. But it needed a commentator of that caliber. And that came through a great acharya called Appayya Dikshita. Appayya Dikshita has commented on the entire Yaadavaabhyudayam, so much so, two things happened. He was the court poet and advisor to a king of the Vellore clan called Chinnabomma Reddy. If you go to Vellore, you have a beautiful fort. And in the center of it is a Shiva temple called Jalakanteshwara temple. It is surrounded by a moat which has waters in it. So this was constructed roughly in the 15th century when the Vijayanagara kings were getting weaker. They had vassals called as Nayakas. So there was a Reddy, the duo non-controversial Reddy brothers of those days. So they were called Chinnabomma Reddy and Timma Reddy. They constructed this fortress. And they had a great poet, a Purohita, and he was called Appayya Dikshita because kings valued knowledge and they would keep extremely knowledgeable people with them. That is why administration was good and roads were bereft of potholes. So there was this Appayya Dikshita who was there, and the king said, I commissioned this project that you have to comment on Vedanta Desika's work. When Appayya Dikshita took this up, he said he was in principle opposed to this because he was an Advaiti, a Shiva Bhakta, and Vedanta Desika is a Visishta Advaiti, a Vishnu Bhakta. So this just can't happen. How will the media take it? How will the followers take it? Wouldn't it become a point in the center of discussion? But as he took this work up, he had to do justice to it, and I can tell with my limited knowledge, Kvavacham acharyaha kavikatha kantirava guruhu kvachaham nichatma trichaturavataha swapyachaturaha. I can tell you with my limited knowledge, Appayya Dikshita has done absolute justice to it. The way he has commented doesn't earn a praise from me. I am nothing. Towards the end of the commentary, when the king read it, he did a Kanakabhishekam on Appayya Dikshita. He said, what a commentary it is. So the work is beautiful, the commentary is beautiful, the work is by a Visishta Advaiti, the commentary is by an Advaiti, the work is by Vedanta Desika, who is believed to be an Aparavataram of Venkatesha and Gantavataram of Tirumala. Commentary is by Appayya Dikshita, believed to be an Aparavataram of Shiva. What a combination it is. This is Yaadavaabhyudayam of roughly 2500 verses, housed in 24 sargas, chapters that we are going to delineate. He begins with a beautiful verse. When you have to make a mark in your audience, you initially set that benchmark in the first 5 minutes. When you go to a kacheri, because we are just in the midst of the Margari season, the first 5 minutes is where you attract. Dani sari ga sari ga ma da pa ma ga ri ni ni dani sari ga ma pa da ma ga ri sa dani sari ga ma pa da ga ma pa da ni ba da ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga ri ga. When you sing that ragam, the audience should immediately leave their phones and stop checking their WhatsApp messages and keep looking at you. The first verse of Yaadavaabhyudayam sets the tone. Vande Vrindavana charam vallavi jana vallabham jayanti sambhavan dhama vaijayanti vibhushanam. Vande. This verse has 4 parts. Pada. The first pada is Vande. Vande Vrindavana charam. I pay my obeisances, salutations to the one who trod, who walked on the path in a forest called Vrindavanam. Now there is a big debate whether it is Vrindavanam or Vrindavanam. There are 2 versions to it. One, the very famous version says it is Vrindaban. Why it is called Vrindavan? Because Vrinda means Tulsi. तुलसी जी का जो बन होता है उसी को हम बोलते हैं वृंदावन. Fine, but there is a problem here. If that bun is full of tulsi, then how can Krishna walk on tulsi? When you are saying that the forest is infested with tulsi, he has to walk on tulsi. But then there is a sub discussion. No sir, vanam means it doesn't mean you have to walk over it. What you have to do is you have to walk on the path. On sides you will find tulsi. So Brinda is tulsi. So Vrindavan ka arth hai tulsi ka van. Fine. Now there is another problem. In the east of India, as you go from Odisha to some parts of Bihar, to some lower parts of Nepal, to large parts of West Bengal, to full of Bangladesh, central hot topic. Go till Tripura. Every va will become ba, because technically in the Bangala Bhasha there is no va. Boshundhora, Vashundhoro, Voshumati, Boshumati, Bashumati. That's why you call that rice Bashumati rice. It's Vasumati, right? Vasumati rice becomes Bashumati rice. So everything is bo. So Chakraborti, Vidya. So va becomes ba. So Vrindavanam is Vrindavanam. That is one version. So the original word is Vrindavanam. Argue the linguists. So then what is Vrinda? If Vrinda is Tulasi, Vrindavanam is Tulsivan, then what's Vrindavanam? Vrinda is a type of thorn. When I had been for lectures in 2013 to Australia, I had to ask my host family, can I go and do Sandhya Vandanam? They kind of nodded yes, and by the time I went into the lawns, they came running and said, don't go. But that I've been blessed with longer legs. I already put my leg on the lawn to be pressed by thorns. Because those thorns look like jump-ins. So they will have a small base over which there will be a small sharp object coming. I'm sure there will be people here, Astikas here in our team, who cannot understand Tamil at all. Can you please raise your hands? This is just for my understanding. You can't understand Tamil. Feel proud about it and raise. No problem. Be very frank, yeah. It is a type of thorn. I will leave it there. For those who know Tamil, I can go one step ahead and tell you what thorn it is. It is called Nerinji Mul. Now you have to translate that in English for your friends. It is a type of thorn. So that Nerinji Mul is called a Vrinda. So it was, that land was infested with sharp thorns. Why would you go to that place which is infested with thorns? Because when any locality is formed, it won't look good. If you go to Westmambalam in Chennai, there is a road called Lake View Road. Have you heard of it? Where is the lake? We don't know. Because before the lake view was formed, there was a lake. When that was found, people bought because it came at cheaper rates. And it was marshy. Then they constructed those houses so much so that you don't have a single trace of where the lake is, barring that board, Lake View Road. There used to be apartments from which you can see the temple. They were called Temple View apartments. But between the Temple View apartments and the temple, there will be taller apartments. Now there will be only Temple View in the name. There is no Temple View. Similarly, as people would walk over a land that is filled with thorns, over a period of time, that starts bending and it becomes softer. So thorns become like grass over a period of time. Mandam mandam madhura ninadair venuma purayantam vrindam vrindavanu bhuvigavam charayantam charantam chandobhage shatamakha makadvamsina danavanam hantaram tam kathayarasane gopakanya bhujangam, says a great poet called Krishna Karnamritam Leela Shuka. So this vrinda became softer. So vrinda, thorns became softer over usage and it became a land filled with grass. That is why the poet says, I don't wish another birth, but if at all I have been ordained to seek another birth, make me the grass in Vrindavanam. Pullai piravi தரவேண்டும் கண்ணா புனிதமான பல கோடி பிறவி தந்தாலும் Vrindavana ஒரு புல்லாய். So Vrindavanam is either the land with tulsi plants or Vrindavanam is the land which was originally filled with thorns, later turned into grass. I hereby salute, one day the poet says, I salute the one who trod over Vrindavanam bracket Vrindavanam. So I celebrate. Who went over it? Who walked on it? Who says? See, I celebrate the one who walked on Central Railway Station. I am saying, I am composing one. Who walked on Central Railway Station? All of us, right? Right? How can you say only Krishna? Then where did the other residents walk? See, there is no mention of his name. Vande Vrindavanacharam. I celebrate the one who walked on Vrindavanam. You are pre-concluding it is Krishna. Everybody who lived in Krishna's time stayed in the same place. Krishna alone did not live in Vrindavanam, the rest of them in the neighboring village. Vande Vrindavanacharam. 1. Vallavi Janavallabham, the one who is loved by the Gopika Stris who lived there. Who is it? Avat Mama? You should have also been loved, right? So, Vande Vrindavanacharam. Vallavi Janavallabham. Jayanti Sambhavan Dhama. The one who, Sambhavam means the one whose advent, birth is on Jayanti. Now we will see what the commentator Appayya Dikshita says. I am reading out the Sanskrit commentary for you. I am sure you, at least people who have assembled here, would not make obnoxious and atrocious statements that the language is dead. Because you are not fighting the next election. That is why you are not making atrocious statements. Rohini Sahita. Who is Rohini? Do we have any Rohini here? Mami per Rohini irkanga? No. Rohini Sahita. The one who is born on the day Sahita. When Rohini's asterism is found. Star. Shravana Masasya. Shravana is that period. See, we have got 2 calendars, Chandramanam and Shauramanam. 15 days gap will be there. If in Shauramanam we believe Margasirsha begins in the middle of December, Chandramanam will be around the start of December. So there will always be a difference. So this is Shravana Masasya Krishnashtami. In the Shravana month there will be a waning phase, Krishna Paksham. In that Krishna Paksham there will be an Ashtami Tithi, Krishnashtami. So Shravana Masasya Krishnashtami, and it should combine itself with the nakshatra Rohini. When all these 4 come together, see, the nakshatra should be Rohini, not Kritika. The Tithi should be Ashtami and not Navami. The month should be Shravana and not generally Bhadrapada or other month. It should be the waning phase and not the waxing phase. Krishna Paksham. So Krishnashtami, Krishna Paksham, Ashtami, Rohini, Shravana Masam. If all 4 come together, that moment is called Jayanti. So Jayanti technically doesn't mean birthday. Jayanti means all 4 have to come together. Jayanti Sambhavan Dhama. The one who was born on Jayanti. Vai Jayanti Vibhushanam. The one who is wearing a multi-hued, colored, flowered garland called Vaijayanti. He is dark. He has got dark hair. In that dark hair, a beautiful set of white pearls, multi-hued peacock feathers, white glistening teeth in both his jaws, beautiful sesame flower-like nose, reddish-tipped large lotus petal-like eyes, a twinkling in the eye to denote his mischief, a beautiful conch-shaped neck, a multi-hued garland, a yellow silk on his thighs, and a red angavastram over it. And this is Krishna's beautiful feature for you. Rama is not this colorful. Rama is very careful. Let me go for pastel colors. Let it be like the sound of music. Krishna is not like that. He will wear like a kachi garment. So all his color will be multi-hued. Vaijayanti Vibhushanam. Now the poet says, I am not naming him. He gives you the exercise. He says, find that person out. The one who walked over Vrindavanam, the one who is loved by all the Gopikastris. See, when we say the one who is loved by all family members, surely our names will not feature. There will be 3-4 members who may not like us, but who will talk to us well. Namaskaram. எப்படி இருக்கீங்க ரொம்ப நாள் ஆச்சு உங்களை பார்த்து. It's been long, ஆனால் உள்ளுக்குள்ளே இதை போய் பார்த்துட்டோமே. There'll be 4-5 members like that, but the way they talk, that poise, that tone will make you feel that you're very important, but they don't treat you that importantly. But here he says, the one who is loved by all Gopikastris, the one who was born on the momentous occasion of Jayanti, and the one who is wearing the Vaijayanti, I celebrate. So the answer is Krishna, but that Krishna is hidden in this shloka. So this is shloka 1.